Well, welcome back to Doc's Hot Shop and Forge. Today we're going to continue with the treadle hammer build. As you'll recall in the last video, I was working on the pivot pins and associated assemblies. Today we go from trial fit up to beginning final assembly and the construction of the treadle and associated parts. This process will involve a fair bit of fussing to get everything to fit and some on the fly redesign work, as you'll see. This video will take us to near completion, but not quite all the way there, as we're going to have to get some extra parts for the spring return mechanism. So, well, let's get started. So I am beginning to set up to cut all the parts for the treadle and the treadle return. Now that that's set up, let me get my PPE on and we'll get cracking. So now we have to turn this into the treadle and uplink to their parallel arms. There's a lot of little bits. So the only things not marked off on my checklist is how long to make the threaded link rod, which is the adjustment screw. Oh, and I haven't cut the pivot pin for the treadle bail, which is what allows the uplink some degree of flexibility when in use. So let's get the welder out, let's lay things out, well, let's stick things together. So now we're up to the joining of the long arms of the treadle to the pivot plates. And for that, I'm going to cut out a slot so that these actually key in and then have welds, so there's a lot more contact surface area. That by I reinforce this junction a little bit. It's going to be a fair bit of force going through that. The pivot is already going through, so I might add a little bit of metal to rigidize that, bending forces. But otherwise, we are making some good progress. So, after doing a bit of measuring and actuating things, these are a centimetre long. I might actually take 2 centimetres off. I can have a bit more clearance at the hinge end. So the first step in cutting these slots is to drill a hole, 12 mil, to define the bottom of it, and then we'll slit out with angle grinder, and then I'll tidy up the bottom of it with a file. So let's get some drilling done, and then we'll trim these to length. Now we just need to mark the lines that we have to cut to, and then we'll get the angle grinders out. So we're currently doing the layout for the treadle arm itself. So we've got cross member spacing all pretty much G'd up. This isn't its final location, I'm just providing a spacing so that there is adequate clearance for this because it's a pivoting piece. But now we are ready to tack these together. And then we'll do a trial fit to make sure we've got clearance. Alright, that should hold it together. At least whilst we do the trial fit. Well, we've got clearance for that. That's good. Excellent. Good clearance. Good. That's ready to be welded up. Then we need to do some trial and error. Find the optimal location. Thinking somewhere about here. And probably about here. The aim at this point is to try and keep this all as square and parallel as we can. So, now, measure this, which is 40 centimeters, and we add a fudge factor for adjustment. Right, now we'll get a better idea. This is going to have to move. That is, so we'll need about 600, I reckon. I have a feeling we're going to have to redesign this to involve a little bit of hinging. I'll be using some more of these. Maybe cut one in half, weld it to this. Think about it over lunch. Okay, so that's the treadle. Now, what I still have to do is figure out exactly where I want that. Thinking a little bit further that way. Need to get 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. Fit this one here, and get some cabling sorted for the return. Which will have 2 springs on either side of the column. I have 2 springs that are rated to 50 pounds at half stretch. So if this weighs 60 to 80 pounds, that still gives me a 20% safety margin, which I hope is enough. Hope so. this as vertical as we can get it. Marking out. Boy, there are times I wish I had an extra pair of hands. So, bearing in mind no return spring, so yep, we're gonna have to fix those in place. Alright, this was something I was hoping to avoid. Having to weld these high tensile elements to mild steel. I was hoping to avoid that altogether, but I guess we can't. Right, well, following the making of the return spring, I need to get some stainless steel cable. This thing is pretty much done, bar ballasting and making some dies. Cool. Time for some cleanup. Well, it's definitely looking like a treadle hammer now. The ram as it stands, as I mentioned in the last video, weighs about 36 pounds. With ballast, by my calculations, it should end up somewhere between 55 and 60 pounds. The next part to make will be the spring return, and I'm still weighing up the need for a guide for the ram. Starting to think that maybe that'll be required. So it won't be long until we have first smash. If you would like to support the channel, I now have a Patreon, and any donation made will be just that, a donation. The content will always be free. The Patreon link is in the video description down below. So, as always, if you've enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up. Feel free to share on social media. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you subscribed. We are running a 500 subscriber giveaway at the moment, which we'll be drawing at the end of January, so January 2020. So there's a link down there to that video where you can enter. So get out to your shop, have fun, but do stay safe, and I'll catch you for the next one.